and become the new way in which we do forensic audits, in which we do our original smell test, but with using technology, using data mining, using newer tools. So probably gone are the days when an auditor would have to turn every page on your file, and one auditor puts a green tick on the top right-hand corner, the other auditor, to distinguish himself, goes on the bottom right-hand corner with a new color, a third auditor goes into another color with the left-hand corner. Maybe those days have changed. But have we as a banking system remained abreast with evolving technologies and prepared ourselves to really ensure high ethical standards, high monitoring standards, high accountability of the system? Because after all, we are working with public money, public funding. And I think in that, in a way, all of us collectively have not lived up to the high expectations and standards that were required of banking. After all, we've introduced core banking solutions, but probably somewhere along the way we left it half done. And I recall, I don't know if Vinodji remembers, when core banking was first coming into the country, and that was the time we were on the board, this issue had also come up that each bank setting up their own core banking systems may not necessarily be the best interests of the banking architecture, because banks have to talk to each other. The core banking solution of each bank has to talk to each other, has to engage with each other. But somehow that got left out during those early years. And today we have a situation where one bank, in order to attract a business, could possibly open a current account of a person who's a defaulter in another bank. Another bank could probably give a loan outside the lending consortium or outside the joint lenders forum, putting to risk the entire borrowing of the rest of the banks. We could have a situation where people have got away with large amounts of loans being disbursed, not necessarily put into the activity or the purpose for which they were disbursed or sanctioned in the very first place. And somehow in 2014, when we came into government, we had a Hobson choice of letting things pass the way they were always done, or bringing to fore the real issues and challenges that the banking system faced. All of us in this room are well aware that the stress was not created in the last 2 or 3 or 4 years. This stress was a carried forward legacy of several years of work that we had done or not done with the amount of diligence or speed of action that was called for. Of course, there will be business failures along the way. We are all doing commercial lending, commercial decisions. And there will be genuine business failures. Nobody can deny that. Governments have also failed banking. After all, if 204 coal blocks got cancelled because of some irregularities in the allocation of coal blocks, I would certainly not say that 204 coal blocks were all irregularly allotted. All of it happened in a brief period where in 3 steering committees, I don't recall, it was the 35th, 36th, 37th or one of those 3 steering committees of the coal ministry, which fortunately or unfortunately I have had to handle after 2014. It was only in 3 meetings that most of these irregularities took place. But the fallout was that 204 coal blocks got cancelled, and we put to risk large investments in the power sector and other sectors which were dependent on coal coming out of these coal blocks. And certainly there have been business failures which were beyond the control of bankers, beyond the control of the system. But that does not take away from the reality that when we looked at the books in 2014 and we did an assessment over a period of 2014-15, you found large amounts of stressed assets, not recognizing the problem, but only postponing the problem. And that's something we have all been party to. The restructuring again and again of the same accounts, leading to large amounts of liabilities which could not be serviced, which were just being postponed, leading to evergreening when new loans were given just to ensure that the account remains regular. So it was more an adjustment. You gave a fresh loan of 100 crores, but it never actually got disbursed. It was only used to pay off the overdues and show the account as regular. And in the process, the liability kept expanding to a point where some of our banks had nearly 1/3 of the liability, 1/3 of the loans, not earning a single rupee of interest. And to stay afloat, the banks had to load that interest on the MSME sector or on the most vulnerable borrowers, causing further distress in the system. After all, the AAA borrowers would not borrow from you if you tried to load too much of that burden on the AAA borrowers. An NTPC, for example, or a Reliance or a good corporate borrower would go hunting for the best deal that he could get. And I don't think we had the ability to load his loan with our problems. There was a priority sector lending where you in any case had restrictions on the amount you could charge. So all that burden was shifted largely to the MSME sector, and in that process you made that sector also vulnerable because of very high interest costs, causing distress going forward in their operations. And this paradigm had to change. We had to bring about honest accounting and honest recognition of the reality, which this government was willing to do, was willing to bite the bullet, was willing to clean up the inherited legacy and prepare our Indian banking system to become truly an engine of growth, prepare our banking system to recognize the problem, address the problem, and go forward with cleaner balance sheets. And ultimately, when we go to a doctor, you need to know what the problem is before you can solve the problem. I can't go to the doctor and not tell him that I've got fever 6 times over in the last 1 month and expect him to solve that problem. In fact, in our meeting yesterday where we were receiving the report of the Sunil Mehta committee, Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, the chairman of State Bank of India, at one point remarked, and I hope that was not a confidential remark, he remarked that actually it's very good that we are recognizing the problem up front and we are trying to resolve it in a defined time frame before it gets into such a bad mess that we cannot resolve it afterwards. And it reminded me of an old situation that I used to very often on the board of the bank talk about, which was that whenever an account went bad, the nimble-footed foreign banks would get out of that account, recovering whatever best they could, But we in the public sector, because of our complicated systems and processes and our effort to keep delaying the problem, we were left holding the can and then ultimately not able to recover any significant part of our advances. So in that sense, these early warning signals really help us to start looking at the account more seriously. Having said that, it's very important now to also say that there are genuine business failures, which I mentioned earlier, which need to be addressed through resolution. Everything cannot be sent to liquidation, and that cannot be the panacea of all problems. And therefore, this message that there is an option by which you will lose control of your company, the message that you will have to perform well, was important. But at the same time, it's important that we also support good borrowers. Credit flow starts into the system. A genuine case where the problem was beyond the control of the borrower, the bankers sit down together and find a resolution to the problem. And I'm delighted that in a very short span of time, the Sunil Mehta committee, along with Rajneesh, along with Venkat, along with Mr. Jaykumar of Bank of Baroda, literally burnt the midnight oil and brought out a framework which to my mind has been very well received by the marketplace. The 5-pronged strategy by which different category of accounts, the small accounts less than 50 crores, the mid-size accounts between 50 and 500 crores, the larger accounts beyond 500 crores. Each one has been given a new dimension, a new way forward. And I would urge all the bankers in this room and outside to carefully examine the recommendations of this committee, and you will find that it's a win-win solution for every segment, every stakeholder in the banking system, and therefore a win-win solution for India and the Indian economy. In the past, we had serious problems about 1 or 2 bankers having the ability to stall any resolution or stall any way forward when it came to addressing the problems of both the banking system and the borrowing industry. I remember many times we have had this discussion at different fora with bankers about the myopic thinking of individual bankers, not looking at the larger picture and stalling progress of the banking system. I think they have come out with a very good suggestion that all banks will have to work as a team, as one, and address this challenge that we have before the public sector banks and some of the private banks also, and address them in a time-bound fashion. So I would urge all the bankers to work as a team, to work together in the best interest of supporting good borrowers, in the best interest of cleaning up the legacy that needed to be sorted out. Cases which are beyond redemption go to NCLT and get resolved through the liquidation process, through the IBC framework that has already been quite successfully tested now, and we hope to see some more resolutions come out in the near future. And other cases, through a very transparent, non-discretionary method, get resolved within the banking system with a third-party screening committee or with a third-party eminent group, ensuring the due process being followed, ensuring the sanctity of the due process, that has been suggested by this committee. This will also ensure a check and counter check or check and balance in the system. This will also ensure that people do not have to worry or be scared while taking bold decisions. Because obviously when any such decision is taken, there cannot be 100% template in which such decisions are taken. But this counter-checking by screening committee will help to ensure that due process is followed. And my own experience, in 4 years in government, I've actually experienced what it is like to be in the operating side in any government body or government organization. So my responsibility as a minister is as much as any of the bankers sitting here or any of the government officials. But I believe that whenever we have taken decisions and we've taken policy-driven decisions, whenever the decisions have been within the framework of the law, without favor for any individual, but taken for a class of stakeholders, we don't have to worry about taking those decisions. One can take very bold and very game-changing decisions when you are conscious of your responsibility to work without fear or favor. And I would urge all the bankers that when you are taking these decisions, if you give speaking orders, if you are clear about why and how you are going about your business of lending, there can never be a problem. It is only when we do not follow the due process or when we are trying to go beyond the norms of prudent banking that the problems come up. And even after that, if there is one or two aberrations in the system, I think those aberrations will get sorted out through the judicial process. Fortunately, in India, we have a very robust legal framework, a very strong rule of law that prevails. And some of these aberrations, to my mind, are very unfortunate. But I think we'll have to address these challenges also as we go along. But I'm sure none of you will disagree that if there has been any culpability, if there has been any wrongdoing, then they have to be punished also. The nation demands that. The people of India also have faith in our banking system. They put their money into the banking system on the faith that we will all do our job honestly. And it is for us to redeem that faith. It is for all of us collectively to ensure that we don't let our people down, don't let our depositors and other stakeholders down. And that is a twin responsibility. We have to ensure credit to the deserving borrowers so that the wheels of the economy can take off faster, while at the same time ensuring that banks work in an organized and honest fashion. And both are twin objectives which can be met. And I have full confidence in the ability of our public sector bankers to ensure an orderly functioning of the banking system and ensure that what we have achieved in the last 3 years in terms of preparing the banking system to really work in a very organized fashion and preparing ourselves to work with global standards of banking in India will not go wasted. These efforts will succeed with the cooperation and support of the whole system. I have in fact yesterday asked Ratnishji that all the private bankers also should be a part of this effort that you are suggesting in the committee report that I saw yesterday. Everybody has to work as a team. Everybody can benefit from a more orderly system going forward. Because at the end of the day, it's not about one bank or the other. It's about the entire banking system. And it's about the banking system, which is an important element of the entire nation's economy. I don't think any nation can progress without smooth credit flow, and I don't think any nation can progress if the credit flow is not honest. And it is incumbent on all of us collectively to ensure honest credit flow to the deserving borrowers. And to my mind, it's eminently doable. It's very much in our abilities to deliver on what the people of India expect. We have faced these kind of challenges in the past. We have had occasions in the past when Indian banks have had to face such challenges, high NPAs, difficulties in recovering money. In the old days, the general tendency used to be that a small borrower was responsible for repaying money to the bank. But when it came to large borrowers, it used to be the responsibility of bankers to recover money from the large borrower. Fortunately, the rules of the game have changed today. Everybody has become responsible. Everybody has started realizing that he has to pay back the bank when he borrows from a bank. And I'm not worried that this will kill entrepreneurship. I believe this will strengthen honest entrepreneurship. And within this, the banking system will also have to devise proper methods to address failures. After all, business has an inherent possibility of failure also. If every business was to be a success, I think all of us in this room would have been billionaires today. If every business was to be a success, I think there wouldn't be any equity premium in the system. Then debt and equity should have both been available at the same price. So very clearly we all understand that entrepreneurship, business, industry, all of it is risk-taking. And you take different types of risk. You take a certain element of risk, you get a lower return. You take a larger risk, you get a higher return. All of us work to the ability that we have on risk-taking. Some bankers may have ability to take larger risk. Others may not even be willing to take that larger risk. Even within our system, we would have different risk-taking. But very well understood by all of us that there is an element of risk in banking, there is an element of risk in entrepreneurship and business. We have to price that risk, we have to monitor that risk, we have to ensure accountability of the system if somebody is going beyond powers, beyond what is his domain. We have to engage with the best of class from outside. Get industry specialists, get technology specialists to see that our systems become more robust. And I'm sure all of us, the public sector banks particularly, will live up to the expectations of the people of India. The government is backing the public sector banks completely. Each one of our banks are important to the government. Each one of our banks has played a very important role in economic progress, in the growth and development of this country. Each one of our banks continues to play a very important role in reaching banking to the remotest corners of India. And we have an important role to play both in the economy and in society. The other day I was telling one of the senior bankers that we should now look at seeing how we can convert even this problem into an opportunity. I said we have about 800,000 employees. Can we think in terms of opening 100,000 extension branches of our banks? 100,000 extension branches which could be set up at the Panchayat office or at the Common Services Center, which are all over the country, which have internet connectivity. There is a place available. and provide physical banking to the remotest corners of India, which will actually help you garner a large amount of CASA deposits. When we are trying to take financial inclusion to every citizen in this country, we can't have a situation that a villager has to travel 50 kilometers to go to his branch. While digitalization will play its role, simultaneously banking going to the doorstep of every citizen will open up opportunities for selling insurance policies, will open opportunities for other businesses related to banking, will help you to create new entrepreneurs in the villages of India. So we have to look beyond our current issues and see how Indian banking can leverage our strengths, take banking to the remotest corners of India, and to my mind, we could actually get a huge leg up, far beyond any additional cost, given that we already have 800,000 employees in the banking system. We can actually leverage our strength and become the engine not only of growth for a certain section of India, but we can become an engine of growth for the remotest corners of India, for the villages of India. And as former President Abdul Kalam ji had said, we could make the villages literally get all the benefits of the cities and ensure that these villages become the future engines of growth of India. I wish all of you well in your work. I wish this conference great success. This is the 5th in a series that the State Bank started, and I'm sure the deliberations that you will have over the next 2 days will certainly help us as policymakers and will help all of you as bankers come up with even better solutions going forward, coming up with even better ideas, how we can serve the nation, how we can serve the people of India better. My best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Mr. Goyal, may you please remain on stage, sir. May I also request Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, Chairman, State Bank of India, to please join Mr. Goyal on stage for the Q&A. We have less than 10 minutes for the Q&A, so may I request everyone to please keep their questions a little bit brief. Thank you.
Don't seem to be any questions. I think they're sorted.
Thank you. And ever since we've taken up, we've seen the speed in decision making. One question I had, which comes commonly when we travel abroad, we have addressed the decision making and sorting out banking as we go along. But the big question on capital infusion continues to be at large, and the worry is about India's rating, because that could get metered down as we start making provisions. And any thoughts on that, sir?
Well, the government of India will provide whatever capital it takes to ensure the orderly management and running of all our PSU banks. I can assure all of you and the nation through this program that the government of India will ensure adequate capital for the successful operation of all the banks. Having said that, I think some of the suggestions that the Sunil Mehta committee came up with, they had also done some analysis of the capital requirement. And we are working in tandem with the team to see what needs to be done, and we'll absolutely provide whatever capital is required. I've also discussed with them about ways in which some of the non-core assets can be quickly cashed. So I understand that public sector systems may take some time till these assets can be sold or can, through a transparent mechanism, can be converted into capital for the banks. But we are working to see if we could look at an intermediate solution for that also. Capital will not be a problem for any of these banks. Of course, they need not keep adding burden onto the system and adding more NPAs so that the capital requirement just keeps going up and up. But I think the Reserve Bank has set very robust standards now. Good amount of benchmarks, which are probably in many cases better than the best in the world. So our norms of NPA, our norms of capital requirement, liquidity requirement in many cases are better than the best in the world. Liquidity coverage ratio, for example, India is amongst the highest anywhere in the world. So we have got a very robust system in place which will help these banks not only perform well but make available low-cost capital, particularly to the small scale and the medium industry.
So I am Chartered Accountant from Mumbai. About these recent happenings in banking sector, we have seen the law and order machinery has overstepped into banking. That's what many people say. Particularly, the Reserve Bank Governor said that we don't have enough powers to control the PSUs. And the machinery which doesn't have expertise in banking has exceeded the powers. So what is your opinion about this?
Well, if there are any instances where I said that earlier also, if there are aberrations, I'm sure the legal system is good enough to sort it out. As regards the Reserve Bank of India's powers, we have also been examining it in the Government of India, and that's an issue that we will sit with the Reserve Bank and we'll sort out. Government has an open mind on this issue.
Mr. Goyal, thank you for a very excellent and forceful speech, and you always give straight answers, so I'm going to ask you a little tricky question. A previous NDA government in Parliament had announced that perhaps we can go down to 33%, maybe with some golden shares for the government which maintains veto control. So would you consider this 33% option?
So there's absolutely no proposal at present to reduce the shareholding of the government below 51%. It will continue to be public sector banks with 51% holding in all the 20 banks which are under the Banking Regulation Act, and there's no proposal at present to change that.
So the set of measures that have been announced now, I think, are excellent to actually take care of the distress that has surfaced. But there's also another set actually which is important to ensure that this set of problems does not recur. For instance, under the previous dispensation, there used to be sort of interference from various quarters. I think creating the checks and balances to ensure that such interference does not happen is something that is important. And the PJNI committee, for instance, of which I had the privilege of being part of, had put some recommendations. We'd love to actually hear your thoughts on, some of those, putting some of those processes in place.
Well, I think this is an issue that